Welcome to Gracefully Graying. Please visit our website, gracefullygraying.com, and our YouTube channel, search for Gracefully Graying. Today, we are once again thrilled to have Mindy Eisenberg from Yoga Moves MS to talk about yoga during yoga screen relief yoga, we'll call this. We've been spending so much time on our screens, obviously, every day, all day. So Mindy termed this screen relief yoga. So welcome, Mindy. We are once again so glad to have you.
It's always fun to spend time with you.
Yeah, you're looking great in your studio, and we hope to see Oscar the dog mowing about.
He's relaxing, doing his shavasana, which is a relaxation pose. He's very good at it.
That's great. We need that. So let's generally talk about, just introduce yourself quickly. Your background. I know our viewers are familiar with you, but go ahead and tell us about yourself, and then we'll get into screen relief yoga.
Yes. So I am the director and founder of Yoga Moves MS. And I'm also the author of a book, Adaptive Yoga Moves Anybody, and Adaptive Yoga Cards. And my specialty is adaptive yoga for people with neuromuscular conditions, such as MS and Parkinson's. My belief and what I'm out to, my philosophy is adaptive yoga is for any and everybody. And it can be used at different times of the day and for different purposes. So the one we're going to talk about today is how much time we spend. You all know that we're spending more and more time on the computer or even on our phones. And our bodies are very much connected to our habit patterns and our movement patterns. And so the body has certain tendencies from staring at the screens, either on a computer or on a phone. So one of them is when you have the phone or the computer, our tendency is to take our head forward. And you might have heard this before, but how much do you think a head weighs?
I don't know. How much?
Well, when I was in one of my yoga therapy classes, they're like, do you realize your head is like a bowling ball? And so the average head, on the low end would be about 10 pounds, more like 12 pounds is the average.
Wow.
So that's a lot of weight on our fragile little necks, asking them to do quite a bit.
Right. And then obviously when we're on our screens, we're hunched over. That's not good for posture. It's not good for so many things. So
one other little fact about this is that for every inch that you take your head forward, you're adding on about 10 pounds.
Really?
Yeah. So it's no wonder that this starts to happen. This is called gravity. Now, even Mr. Iyengar Yoga, he's responsible for bringing yoga to the West, says the body's going to age no matter what, right? We are going to start to fold over like this over time, but we can help prevent it. And when you're at your desk, what do you tend to do? Same thing, right? We're hunched over
for sure.
Yeah.
And you're concentrated on what you're doing on your screen. You have no idea. You don't realize what your body's doing.
And we sit a lot too. So when we sit so much, like the back of our legs tends to get really tight, and the front, because they're not getting any stretch, and they're pretty much locked in this position. So this area on top, the quadriceps get super tight from just sitting. And then most people tend to sit kind of hanging forward like this. So when we sit alert and awake in more of a conscious pose, we're using our core. People are always like, oh, give me a class on core. Give me some stuff for core. How about sitting or standing? So standing mountain pose or seated mountain pose. When we find that spot between front and back on the sitting bones, there's a spot where you feel your belly start to engage. Try it. Just kind of rock forward and back a little bit. Mm-hmm. And when we're forward like this, the belly or lunch just hangs forward. And then when we're like this, we're just kind of slouching back, right? Not much core there. But if we find the center, there's a place where the belly does engage, and it takes our conscious awareness to sit upright. But we forget because we're staring at this screen.
Right. It's like you have to multitask.
What'd you say?
Like you have to multitask. You have to realize what you're doing while you're doing other stuff.
Right. And then, we're so engrossed with the screen. It's mesmerizing, right? Our eyes become glued and we kind of lose connection with our body.
Yeah.
Our mind is working very hard, though.
So you suggest mini breaks. Tell us your definition of mini breaks and what that entails.
Right. So a mini break would be, we're sitting a lot. So a mini break could just mean standing up, and feeling your feet. It could mean taking a breath break. Sometimes we're working on something that causes stress. And so we need to pause. You know how sometimes you just need to take a break for something and then come back to it? Mm-hmm. So you might take a breath break or some type of small, like 1 to 3 minute pause. And that could be your break, or you could have a movement break. And I recommend for people who just get so entranced, which is a lot of us, to possibly set a timer to remind ourselves, it could be, you get to determine how often it is. It could be once an hour, timer goes off, and that means stand and take a stretch. Or it means maybe do a seated cat-cow just to remind the spine to move. So cat-cow looks like this. We round one way with our chin to our chest. See, now I'm actively rounding my shoulders forward, and there's actually a stretch going on behind the shoulder blades. But that's an active stretch as opposed to just hanging like this. I don't know if you can see that. And then we could go up and draw the shoulder blades back. So this isn't like fancy poses. It's just moving the spine in different directions. This is a forward fold, and this is very much a back bend. We're lifting the heart, and the shoulder blades are coming together. So it's just an opportunity to open up after so much closure. It doesn't have to be anything big, wild, crazy, fancy. There are some other things that we can do. People's necks get so sore and eyes get kind of glazy.
I was going to mention the eyes. After you're staring at the screen for so long, that's more reason to take those mini breaks to get your eyes off the screen. You are so right. And some people like to take a break and do an exercise with their eyes. Mm-hmm. So one of them I like to do is pretend you have a clock in front of you, and you're staring at the middle, at the center of the clock. And then you take your eyes on, you can take an inhale and bring your gaze up to noon. And then on your exhale, you can take your gaze back down to 6 o'clock. And so you can go up and exhale down. And so we're working the muscles in our eyes. Right. And we might go from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock and 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So left and right as we breathe. Try it. It's kind of, we forget that we have muscles in our eyes, and they need to move too and not be so stagnant. Another nice one is to actually take your vision around the clock. So starting at noon and going towards 3 and 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock and back to noon. And then you can reverse it. Yeah. You go counterclockwise. Right. That's important. Again, things that people don't necessarily think of, but are so important to do during the day.
Yes.
So let's talk about the back and backaches.
So 80% of our population is going to have a backache at some point in their life. That's huge, right? We don't realize how much back pain impacts us. So just moving is good for the back. Now, some people might just want to be seated at their desk. So if you will, pretend I have a desk in front of me. Actually, I can use another chair and show you. So we have two chairs here. Pretend one is the desk, and I'm going to lean forward towards it in my chair, and we can get a little back stretch here. And you can adjust it. So this feels really good. The sit bones are going back. The arms are forward. The hands could be down here as well. And that's seated, but just taking a little bit of a stretch break and letting the spine lengthen. So that, it's simple. You don't have to do some fancy contorted pose with your body. Now, standing is nice too. So pretend this is the desk or a counter, and I keep my hands on the top of the counter and walk back. Feet are about hip distance apart, and hands can be pressing down into the counter or just touching the edge. And if the elbows or if the shoulders are tight, you can bend your elbows a little bit. And then you can even play here with bending the knees and slowly straightening them as you breathe. So again, this is just a nice simple stretch for an area that often gets stiff, tight, and is painful in the lower back. That's where a lot of people have pain. And then we slowly walk back up. So how long did that take to do that actual pose?
30 seconds.
Yeah. So literally, that could be the mini break. So you might take a pause when the timer goes off, or we say, you know what, I just got to stand up for a minute, or pay attention. How are my eyes feeling now? How's my shoulder feeling now? Yeah. And find a pose that just kind of brings you back in. Now, for some people whose mind is all over the place and they just need to ground themselves, maybe they got off a phone call and it kind of set off the alarms. So standing up and pressing down through the feet, maybe doing a little side bend, taking the arms up overhead and bending to the right. I'm mirroring you right now. And then towards the left. That feels really good too. If you're feeling even a little fatigued, taking your arms up over your head gives you a little energy. So that's a really nice one. If your mind is all over, you might try a balance pose. So, and if you're in heels, you might want to take them off, but tree pose is one a lot of people like. So they could hold on to their wall in the office or the chair or even the countertop and then play with the balance pose. So with tree pose, we balance on one leg and bring the other leg in. So it could be at our ankle, it could be at our shin, it could be on the chair, as long as it doesn't have rollers. I've seen people practice yoga with rollers. That doesn't work so well.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So we could play with balance right here. Something like this. You can hold on to the desk or the chair or be, right up near the wall. You have to feel safe, but this actually feels really nice. This area can get super tight. So something really that asks you to focus because you're asking your body to balance on one leg. You have to be present. You can't have your mind somewhere else. If you take your mind off of your movement and off of your body and your breath, you're going to fall. So it brings you back to center. Sometimes we just need to feel grounded and get back to where we need to be in this moment. So That's a really nice one to do.
How about the neck? Talk about the neck.
The neck. Oh my goodness, the neck. So I really love, we can do some just very simple again. People, first of all, don't know where to put their head. I mean, we don't know where to put our head. We don't even, the proprioception is the idea of where is your body in space. And one of the benefits of yoga is that it helps us learn this. Where are we in space? People never know. Should my head be here? If you say to someone, lift their head, they usually do this. So look at that from the side view. They're lifting their head. That's not necessarily sitting up tall. And by the way, that would be like a huge, majority of the population will do that. So we say, take your chin level with your seat or with the earth, with the mat, with the floor, and maybe even slightly down. And then we want to think about stacking our shoulders over our hips and our ears over our shoulders. So that's kind of a gauge. Now, because we lean forward so much, sometimes it takes a while and some practice to really get the head, the ears over the shoulders. So it doesn't necessarily happen right away. So that's a little bit of where should our head be. Now, for a neck stretch, you might just drop your right ear down towards your right shoulder. This feels super good. And so the stretch is on the opposite side of the neck. You might drop your arm down and even pretend or have a weight in your hand, and then there's kind of like a gentle tugging so that you're feeling the length go all the way down your arm and maybe into your wrist and fingertips. And then we're going to press down through our thighs and our feet to rise back up. And you might notice that one side feels different now than the other, right? So you want to go to the other side.
Right.
So we just neutralize out again, neutralize the shoulders, and then drop the shoulder the other way. Yeah. And you might notice, do you notice one side is tighter than the other one?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's not like a bad or a good thing. It's information. Mm-hmm. It may be the way we sleep or the way we hold our head.
Right. Right.
One eye is usually dominant. And so that affects which way we get. It actually can have an impact on your hips and everything. It's amazing how we're all connected.
Right. I notice working with my mouse, for 8-10 hours a day sometimes, and that affects my arm and my elbow. And being an avid tennis player, I've noticed that has actually had repercussions on my elbow.
Yes.
So it's all connected.
The tennis playing and the tennis elbow.
Yeah.
And there's things we can do for our wrists. Again, this could be a simple 15-minute break. I like to take the thumb on the inside of the palms and then wrap the fingers around. Just do some. I'm always amazed, like I'm feeling it right now. And I practiced twice today already. This area gets tight. The top of, or some people call it the back of the hand, the top of the hand. So that area gets super tight because, especially like what you just said, the hand on the mouse, the hand is like this, right? It's always going this way. I kind of think of it like a forward fold for the body. So the hand needs some movement. It might be just spreading the fingers wide.
Which feels really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can even give it, I call it like a little hug. You can hug your thumb with your other hand, and then, you give it a little traction and make a little space in the joint by pulling the thumb up and then back a little bit. Mm-hmm. You can do that with every finger. Mm-hmm. And that kind of keeps it open. You might notice as we age, the pointer finger knuckle kind of goes up a bit and this area gets tight. And if we take our hands, just even placing your hands on the desk in front of you and pressing down will help to strengthen your hands and stretch out this area that gets tight. Another one I love is someone coined the spider push-ups. but pushing your fingertips into each other like this, like you're holding like a big ball of energy, and then press the ridges into each other. So fingertips and ridges. Mm-hmm. Supposed to be really nice for arthritis.
Oh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So pressing the fingertips in and then the ridges.
Some people have standing desks.
Yes.
And I know that some people talk about that and they swear by that. I mean, you don't need like a fancy schmancy standing desk to work with your computer. You could just put it on a counter, or, what's your thought on that? And then exercising while you're doing that.
Well, I think the standing desk is, I think it's great to have both, because really what we want is movement and not being stagnant. Mm-hmm. I think what happens, it could happen with the standing or the seated. We get into a movement pattern. For instance, how many people stand like this? I don't know if you can see, but I'm hanging in my hip. Yeah. Hips do not like that. The bone is pushing into the socket, and I might not feel it now, and it might feel kind of cutesy, but it's really not good for the back and the hip and the knee area, because it's locking back. So standing is fine, but bringing some consciousness into how we stand. I think it's more how we sit and how we stand, and moving it around a bit so we're not staying in one place. So going up and down, I can see that. I know people who love it. We tend to lock our knees back like this. This is also a big tendency to lock forward, which plays havoc with the posture as well. So when standing, just a little, the timer goes off, and maybe you just kind of sway right and left and feel where's the weight in the feet. If it's too far into the heels, which we tend to do, bring it a little bit forward. I like bending the knees a little bit. This is chair pose. People don't love chair pose, by the way. So you can start it from seated or standing, and it looks like this. But we're using our thigh muscles here. And you can have your arms up or down, or you can be in a chair and rock forward and back a little bit, and then kind of what I call stick it, and have the arms up. Now I'm working my thighs. They're not just hanging out down here.
Yeah. Yeah. So many options, so many ways to move and kind of release that stress. Talk about stress and breathing and mindfulness. I mean, I know we've done interviews with you on breathing, and, that's a whole subject unto itself, but mindfulness, and there's so many things to talk about, but touch upon those.
Yeah. So as I said, maybe you're not in the mood to move at the moment, and you just need to take a break. So there's so many different breath practices, but just bringing yourself back to consciously breathing, whichever breath it is. And the most popular, or the one that we want to focus the most on, is the breathing in and out through the nose. If we just reminding ourselves to breathe in and out through the nose is a big one. They estimate 50%, we talked about this before, breathe through the mouth. That causes anxiety. It also causes this chest issue, real tightness in the chest. So there's a tendency, people say, like, take a deep breath, which I actually don't like that word, because people think there's and they're gasping and they're pushing and they're pulling and they're holding, and that's adding in stress. So how about just a nice, soft, light, conscious nasal breath? Relaxing the tongue and the upper palate is a nice thing to do. And to just even it could just be 5 breaths, which can be difficult, to keep your focus on 5 breaths of air coming in and out through the nose, and taking the breath kind of low here. We call it low, right below the rib cage for the diaphragmatic breathing. People find that can bring in a little bit more balance into the nervous system. We've spent whole sessions on the breath before, but the big keys are nasal breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, not pushing or pulling, like because you want to get more. So I was reading, somebody said, view it like you're on a breath diet, and you don't want to take in too much, just the right amount.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've talked about exercises. We've talked about, breathing, mindfulness, poses. I know you have this amazing set of yoga cards where
I just happen to have them.
great. Yep. And these are really, really helpful tools, no matter how much of a yogi you are or not at all, but as far as just stretching. And I know you give samples of different poses on the front. Well, go ahead and explain those.
Yes. So we have a little instruction manual that's inside, and then they're broken down into on your feet. So if you prefer to stand up on your feet, and mountain pose is the first one because that's the first pose. But then we show with the chair, like this one is triangle pose, and you can see it on the front. And then if you look at the back, there's different adaptations, and one of them is seated. And the front one's with using a chair, holding on to the chair. So then we have on your seat, which is the next category. So that might be you're in your seat and you just want to take a break and you pull out a card.
Right. And these are color coded, by the way.
Color coded. Mm-hmm. So here's Chuck. He's doing a forward fold on the front of the card. And there's just very simple instructions. And then on the back of the card are what would forward fold look like in a few different ways. Mary's got her arms out to the side, hands at the hips. And she's actually using a cane and leaning forward with her legs on a second chair, which is a way to stretch the legs out or maybe take a little break there. I'm all for getting the legs up. It helps reduce inflammation, helps stretching. So that's a really nice thing to do as well. And the last category is on the mat, which some of those poses could be done in bed. But this is our green codes. And so here's one here. She's doing a lunge, and on the front of the card, the chair's in front of her, and on the back, we have a few different ways. She's holding on to blocks.
Yeah. So now these are all patients and clients of yours, correct?
They are my Yoga Moves students, and
right.
Actually, Marcia on the front here, she was one of our Yoga Moves MS students, but she also became a teacher because she liked it so much and she felt so good about it.
That's amazing. Yeah.
She wanted to share it with other people.
Yeah.
So we're very proud of her.
Well, you've given us a lot to think about and some really great tips for everyone that is on their screens all day, every day. And even if it's just a little bit of the day, I mean, these are great poses and exercises to do no matter whether you're working full time or not, or just, want some extra advice as far as doing yoga.
So our bodies were meant to move.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So if you had to just 5 real quick, because we're out of time, believe it or not.
No, we're out of time.
We're out of time. So just 5 quick points as a summary. Number 1 is to move, like just set a timer. So you have a little break, and don't put pressure on yourself. Maybe just say, I'm going to use the next 60 minutes. So take a break, make it a brief pause, check in with your body and say, what does my body need now? Where am I feeling some tightness? And then I would choose, because we tend to lean over, I'd make sure to do either the cat and the cow or some type of back bend to reverse that forward energy. This is a nice one. But to do some type of, the cat cow is really nice. It's quick. Everybody can do it. There's no contraindications. Right. Okay. Thank you so much. It's great. It's great seeing you in your studio with your props and Oscar in front. We love having you once again. And again, we will have you back soon to talk about other things because there's so much to explore. Thank you so much, Mindy Eisenberg of Yoga Moves MS. You are great. You're always a wealth of information, whether you are talking to pure yogis or just people that need tips and poses and exercises. So thank you for joining us once again.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to share with you.
And to our audience, please find us at gracefullygraying.com and search our YouTube channel, search for Gracefully Graying. And we look forward to seeing you next time and sharing all this information with you. Bye-bye.